So now that we have this in here, we need to clip this viewport slightly so it's not showing, it's not overlapping with our scale. So we'll use something called a viewport clip to do that. So I'll just create a regular rectangle. I'll just follow exactly where the viewport is, a little on the outside. And then I'll click the rectangle, which is actually a polygon. Hover over that, there's a polyline, I mean. And you hover over, create a couple new vertices. I'll add one there. Doesn't matter what exactly shape is, if it's outside of the viewport. You'll see how this works, sort of. And so I'm basically going to keep any part of the viewport that's inside this box. So anything outside the box will be removed. So escape, and clip the viewport by clicking the viewport, hit viewport clip, and it says select clipping object. I'll select this, and then enter, and then I'll just take this object and actually what I'll do is I'll take both of these and the object, and I'll just copy paste them into the next 0, 0 again, copy them into the next layout, and I'll just remove that. Or I guess don't remove it, just take it and switch the layer back to C viewport. So I'll go to this C1.2, I'm going to go Control V, 0, 0 again. It'll bring everything back in. And I'll just create a polyline, and I'll sort of just follow this same shape. I'll end up deleting this viewport here in a sec. Delete this one I brought in. It's used as a reference. And so I'll do another viewport clip. So I'll do viewport clip, and I'll click this object. Viewport to clip, clipping object. Oh, so what's happening here is it needs to be closed. So I drew it as a polyline. It is technically snapped, but you need to make sure it's closed. So if you click the polyline on the properties, I'll bring this up. It's under miscellaneous. Switch it to yes when it says closed. You should solve that. Yeah, it was slightly off. So try that again. Viewport clip. Select clipping object, and then I'll just switch this back to the viewport layer. And now you're not going to deal with those overlapping lines. And of course, the viewport, you're not going to see the actual shape of it. It's going to not print, so you only see what's in it. So if it's slightly off like that, it's not a big deal. So now that I have my scale and my north arrows, I think the plan and profiles are pretty good at this point. So next thing I'm going to do is I need to set up my existing condition grading plans. So my existing condition, go back to the C viewport. This one is going to be quite a bit easier to make than the design drawings. So we'll go to the layout tab, rectangular, and I'll just use pretty much the entire space I have available. And I'm just going to zoom into my surface, do a couple REAs, and here we are. Now we just need to see this area. So what I don't want to see in this is any sort of future grade anything. So first I'm going to choose a scale, annotative scale to use. So first choose a random one and then find one that works. I probably want to zoom out a little bit. Too far. 164, a little too far. 132nd. Let's go 1/16 to 1. So that's going to be double the scale of the design drawings, and I'm going to go ahead and lock that. So now I can go zoom in, get into the viewport, double click inside, zoom in, and I can start freezing stuff without worrying about losing my scale. So I'll freeze that. I don't want to see, basically anything that we're designing should be gone. That'll be anything to do with this new road should be gone. Now, I created a separate layer for my existing road, so you're still going to see that there. You should probably do the same thing, because obviously existing road should be on a V layer and the design road should be on a C layer. And the finished grade surface should be gone. Any of these lots should be gone. That road's still kind of there. I'll just leave the alignment of it in. And there you go. There's my existing, conditions. So hit enter, and then I'll get out of the viewport. Now, one thing you can do is draw the existing buildings if they're already in place. But for now, I'll move on from that. So that's really pretty much all there is to the existing conditions drawing. So what I will do is I still want to see that north arrow. This north arrow is not pointing in the right direction. So what I'm going to do, I just realized it's not pointing in the right direction. So you want to double check that as well. So I'm going to create another north arrow, same one. Use that viewport, and I'll place it here. And again, I'll scale it the same amount, which was 5, and then I'll make sure it's on the correct layer. So yeah, if you do copy paste the arrows in, make sure it's on the right layer, or make sure it's in the right direction. So I'll do it one more time. Make sure Cano is my current layer. And try to bring it back to the same relative position as the other one. So now I'll go back to C1.0, and I'm going to sort of set up my north arrow and scale for this one as well. So I'm probably going to have to clip this again, so I'm going to just get that over with now. Create this polygon here. Close the polygon. Make sure it's on C viewport. And then we're just going to go viewport clip and choose that one. Bring that down slightly. So again, I'll Cano as my current layer, so I'll go north arrow, same one. Select this viewport. Scale it up by 5. And you want your existing additions to be pointing north. There's really no reason you should be pointing in a different direction for your existing additions or your grading plan. And same idea here. I'll use 200 instead of 100. It looks like I'll have to move that over a bit. Don't want it to be overlapping anything. I can easily just move that up and move that up. So now you notice I use 200 instead of 100 here because I want the scale bar to be the same size, but I know that my scale is 1/16 to 1 instead of 1/8 to 1, so it's going to be exactly twice as zoomed out. So convenient thing about the existing condition plan is the grading plan is going to be almost exactly the same. So what I can do is just copy paste from 0, 0 everything on this sheet other than the title block, and I will paste it at 0, 0 with the Control V command. I had to relink that scale, and this viewport, we haven't frozen anything yet. So for this one, we'll go to the same layer properties, and we're going to want to freeze anything with V10 in it, same as the design drawings, because this grading plan will show finished grade. So I don't want to freeze them, I want to viewport freeze them, so that'll be over here. once those are frozen, I can do everything else from inside here. So I'll click on corridor, don't want to see that. Oop, wrong thing. You can Control Z within a command. So remove that. Now the grading plane, you don't want to see anything underground either, so I'm going to remove these. I'll leave the manholes, but I'll remove the pipes. And that looks okay like that. And there you go. Now, another thing you'll notice is it seems my lots are not showing. It's probably to do with annotative scale on those. So this is where we finally get to adjust the scale on those lot names. So on this lot, for example, I have a 1 to 200 scale. Luckily, now that I know what scale I want, this is going to be showing on the grading plan. I'll select similar, and I'll switch these to be 1/16 to 1. Again, I don't have those as options on this one, so I'm going to have to create a new one. So, but it'll have to be the exact same name in order for it to work. So make sure all the spaces are right, and that's in the actual annotative scale. So if you click on this on your viewport, 1/16 equals 1 foot. So that's what we need to use. So actually what I could do is just do a snipping tool and just copy that. Let's move it to the side up here. And I'll go back to the base drawing. And I'll create a new scale, add, and then I'll take a look at my snipping tool and I'll make sure that I give it the same exact name as what's on my snipping tool. So 1/16 inch equals 1 foot. 0 inches. So 1/16 inches equals 1 foot, 0 inches. And just make sure that looks right. Oh, nope, we need to add a dash there. It won't recognize it as the same scale if you don't have the exact same writing. I don't know, what do you think? Does that look good? I think it looks good. So 1 paper unit will equal, so 1/16 of an inch to 1 foot. So that's going to be 16 times 12. That'll be exactly 2 times what we had before. So 192. Okay. So on So I switch my annotative scale here, my model space scale, to the same one. And then when I click any of these, I can hit select similar, so to select all of them. And then I will simply change, so the style should be the C203 style. I didn't have that in my base drawing, you should. So, but what I want to do is add the scale of 1/16 foot inch equals 1 foot, and remove the other one. Okay. And then make sure, and so since I don't have the correct style, I'm just going to have to adjust the height manually. You should automatically go to 0.08. And there you go. So now I have the lot 6, and all of these I probably want them to be masked, so they already are masked. They'll still show up behind stuff unless you go display order, bring to front. Now they'll end up in front. And try to make sure they're not overlapping things if you can avoid it. So now I have my lots named. I'm going to bring this down so it's not overlapping the contours. Contours are looking like they're overlapped, but that's because I'm looking at it from a different scale than is shown in the drawings. So now I'm just going to hit save, and then when I go to the other one, it will hopefully show those lots. So go to my design drawing, reload my XREF, see if that scale worked. regen. And it looks like the lot showed up. So now what we need to do is just make sure that nothing's showing up here that shouldn't show up. For example, I don't really want to see those these covers here, so I'm just going to remove those. And it looks like, so what was it that I just froze? You can check here. It looks like I actually froze the alignment, so I'm not going to do that. Those are probably an issue with the alignment style. So if I click on this, on the alignment, and then edit alignment style on the display, the markers, you can just switch these to none. Okay, and then I'll get rid of those. When I save this and reload it again, it'll go away. So there's just a few little things that you kind of need to watch out for, make sure it looks okay. Back to design, reload, and get rid of those. So now it looks fine. So I do have a minor issue here. It looks like my lot's not entirely showing up. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. There's a little room to move it up a little bit at the top. So move this a little below the bottom here. Brought that down and then bring it up a little bit. And then you can make sure that it all fits. So we have all our lots fully enclosed now in the drawing. So that looks pretty good. And so now we have basically our entire design drawing done. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. This is kind of what you want it to look like. One thing you will need to do is when you do a test print, just make sure it all looks okay. That's printing with the correct C2B and so on. Now I'm going to move on to the general drawing. So I'm going to hit Open on the Sheet Set Manager. And so this is going to be our cover sheet. I shouldn't have called that general. That should be cover. The drawing is called general. The sheet name should be cover. The regen. Now it says cover. So for this one, what we kind of want to show is in the middle, sort of at a vicinity map, a title at the top, and then we're going to have our index, which you probably already have made over here, and then our legend down here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way to create a vicinity map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto Google Chrome here, and what I'm going to do is go to you can literally just type in vicinity maps, and there should be something called Snazzy Maps that comes up. Works pretty well. So what you want to do is go to Explore Styles, and down here zoom down to black and white. It seems to work pretty well. And I already zoomed into my area, so make sure to show a couple important landmarks. I'm showing Chiloquin, Klamath, Agency Lake is here, and then Klamath Agency is right here. So my subdivision's here, but make sure to, wherever it is, make sure to show some, recognizable landmarks. So what I'm going to do here is just take a screenshot. So I'm going to go to the snipping tool. You can't, I hope you all know how to get the snipping tool. And so I'll just take a screenshot of this whole area. Make it pretty square. And I'm going to go to, we're actually going to go Save Snip, and I'll put it on my flash drive. So I'll just call it Vicinity Map. And I'll call it JPEG. You can do a PNG if you want, though. I'll save it, and then I can close this. So I don't need that anymore. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Insert, and then this attach option right here. This will be all image files, so that attach option under the reference panel will give you image files you can choose from. So I'll go back to my USB drive, vicinity map, and hit open. And I'll specify on screen, I'll figure out the scale after I put it. Obviously it needs to be a little bigger than this, so I'll put that there. And, you know, about that size. And that looks fine. So, kind of try to center this. A couple ways to center it. What I'm going to do is just draw a line, do a perpendicular snap, PER, enter, and I'll just do perpendicular to this line. And then, I'm going to do a move command. I can start with a midpoint here, make sure you have a midpoint snap on, that'll be the triangle. And I'll move it to the center of this line, so you should see a midpoint snap come on when you hit the center of that line. Good. And so now I have my vicinity map pretty much made up. What I do need to do, make sure it's on the right layer. I don't want it to be on 0. I'll just put it on cyano. And I probably want to create sort of an indication on here as to where my area is. So I happen to know, you know, my area. I'll make cyano my current layer. I know my area is right, you know, about here. Something like that. So, I don't know why cyano is logged. Shouldn't be. Okay. So, this is the area I'm working in. So what I want to do is kind of hatch that box. So I'll do a hatch command. I'll select this object. Then for my hatch, I'll choose this ANSI 31. I'll probably scale it down until it looks, you know, pretty decent. You can kind of tell what's going on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an arrow. I'm going to kind of create my own arrow here, so I'll use a polyline, and I'll run one there, escape, and I'll run another one kind of up here. And what I can do is on the properties for this first polyline, I can make the start segment width 0, end segment width, I'll just go like 0.25 and see how that looks. That's pretty good. Maybe I'll go 0.22. 0.2. And then for the next one, I'll start at 0.1 and I will end at 0.25. Something like that. And I will just bring that one in there. So you kind of have a little bit of an arrow here. I could convert that into an arc, make it look a little more good. And that whole thing, and I'll just scale the whole thing down by 0.75. You can't join those. Move. And then I'll just do an mtext. And I'll say project location. So this is that CE203 textile anno. I'll just make it regular CE203 textile, and 0.08 is fine for that size. Could probably go a little bigger. I might go 0.12 actually. So now you can kind of see where the project's happening, and then down here at the bottom, I'll do another mtext. I'll just indicate that this is a vicinity map. And just to make sure that's centered, I can bring it out here to the beginning of the picture. I'll run this one to the end of the picture, and then I'll just justify middle center. Now I know it's centered. So the next thing I want to do is kind of put a title up here at the top, so I'll just do another mtext, and I'll create up here, centered on there. I'm going to call mine the last name and then name your subdivision. I'm going to call mine agency subdivision. Yours obviously will be in something different because you'll be in a different location. And then I'll say for CE203. So I want you to say that same thing. And then I want to make that bigger. I'll go 0.16 on that one. Don't want it to be Anno, so I'll make that regular text. And then I'll center, so I'll go middle center again. 0.16 is still a little small. I'll go 0.24. That looks better. I'll move that down. Again, you want that to be centered exactly, so what I'm going to do is go from here to, and I'll do a perpendicular snap there, and then I'll just set that up so that it's right in the center of that line, and I can just delete that line. And so another thing I noticed is I can't see an image frame around this. I think it would look better with a frame around it because it'll just look kind of weird when you plot it otherwise. If I showed you, if I plot this and I go preview, right now it just looks kind of sort of like it shades in. It doesn't look great. So what I'm going to do is you can turn on something called image frame. And then you just choose, it says choose a value. 1 will turn them on. So now you can see there's a frame around this now. So, and this should be Anno. You see that frame a little better. So now if I do the print preview again, you can actually do a quick print preview by dropping it onto the quick access toolbar, and then you can just click it once. And now it looks a little better in my opinion. So, now we're getting there. We're getting pretty close to this being done. So the next thing I want to do is, you guys might have already done it, so I'm not going to waste your time, but I'm going to add this, actually I will waste your time, it's not going to take that long, so I'll just go insert sheet list table, and then in the other lesson plan, I can't remember which one, but we styled all this. I'll skip. So now I have my sheet list in here. I sort of skipped that, but you guys I'm sure have all already done that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to show my legend, so I'm going to go to Layout, well first C Viewport, and I'm going to go Layout, Rectangular, and I'm just going to create a viewport right there. And I'm going to try to find wherever, oh, so I haven't actually referenced the base into this, so what I need to do is do another map CS assign. And we're going to go to that same one before we accidentally referenced it in the base in. So we'll go Oregon State Plane. Expand that, go to Oregon A3 SIF. Assign. And we're going to go X attach. I'm going to bring in that base. We're going to still set it at 0. Say OK. Now I'll just do zoom extents to find it down here. Alright, so that's what we want our legend to be showing. So I'll go over here. And we'll do a couple of regens. We'll get in on that location. You can kind of see where I chose to put my legend was over here. So we kind of want to show that at the same scale that we show our design drawings, so I'll just go 1/8 to 1. Might be a little small. We could adjust it accordingly. Yeah, it'll be a little small. I'll go maybe 1/2 to 1. Might be a little better. So, sort of messed it up, but yeah, 1/2 to 1. And so the reason I hadn't written anything yet was because I kind of figured I would get my annotative scale right first, and then I'll go in and write some stuff. And so there's kind of, several probably things we want to put in this legend. So if I go back to, probably want to go to my base drawing, so I can actually click on the object and just hit Open XREF if you don't already have it open. So we want to show our major and minor contours. I want to show one of these elevations. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 1/2:1 scale. Again, I don't seem to have it, so what I'm going to